regardless of all that, I am a change agent and I believe in the power of change. So we're going to talk about my favorite topic tonight, which is mental health. So first, I need everybody up on your feet. You don't need anything in your hand. Please. So one of the things that's super important, if you take nothing else away from me today, is the idea around setting your intention, right? So you all came to the meeting tonight, whether you're a regular member or a friend brought you, but you came for a reason. I want you to set your intentions for the information you are, thanks Marvin, going to receive from me. So it's really important as we transition in between things, we're thinking about, what am I going into this situation thinking? Am I thinking, who is this girl? I don't care about mental health. Am I thinking, man, I don't believe in therapy because it's crazy? Am I thinking, man, I'm trying to get out of here. I got to go eat. I got to go, whatever you have to do next. So I want you to be mindful of what are you thinking before we start this? And I want you to see if you can practice just clearing your mind and being open. So I'm open to receiving whatever she has to offer. I'm open to learning about mental health. I'm open to talking about stress. I'm just open. So just taking a couple deep breaths. You might even shake your arms out a little bit, roll your shoulders a little bit. There's a lot of tense looking folks in here, still buttoned up in their jacket. I'm ready to go. Just relax. Take a couple deep breaths and have a seat. So Marvin hit me up at the last minute, per usual, and said, can I come out and talk about something? Whether it's, I came before and talked about healthy relationships.
Yes.
Maybe. But I was just on the radio on Power 98 with the Morning Madhouse talking about holiday stress. So I want to bring that to you all as well. So it's the holidays. Not everybody celebrates. Not everybody has families. So I want us to talk about what does it mean for us to be impacted around the holidays, and especially as it relates to depression in the holidays. So some objectives. Why do we get sad is going to be the main thing. How do we know the signs? And then what are we going to do with the information? So again, as the holidays come around, why am I feeling more down than usual? What are the signs that I need to be on the lookout for within myself? And then now that I've seen these signs, what am I supposed to do with that information? We'll come back to that. So some signs. There are 4 baseline behaviors when you go to the doctor that they should be asking. I don't know if they're asking. But some things that I want you all to think about is, how is my appetite? So am I eating 2 to 3 times a day? How is my energy? How am I sleeping? And then what's my interest level like? So for all of us, if we pay attention to those 4 baseline behaviors, we'll have an idea that something is off or something is not right with us. As it pertains particularly to depression, unprovoked tearfulness, being withdrawn or isolating, missing work or school, not interested in things you used to be interested in, like I said, appetite, sleep patterns, agitation, and lack of energy. Any other brave volunteers that can say, well, I know this happens to me when I'm not feeling like myself, that we may not have had listed. This thing happens to me, this is different about me. Yes, ma'am.
I would say I close myself off, so I'm really quiet.
Absolutely. So you might be more reserved or quiet when you're usually talkative. That's a great example. What you got, honey?
Inability to concentrate.
Absolutely. So you can't focus, and it has nothing to do with attention deficit. You just can't focus when usually you are laser focused and locked in. Anybody else?
Fall out your normal routine.
Absolutely. So you are out of your routine. You used to go to the gym every morning at 6, and then all of a sudden you just don't have the motivation to do it anymore or the energy. Whether or not these things happen and you're like, oh, I gotta go see a therapist, that's not really what I want you to think about. But I want you guys to be paying attention to, what am I like every day, right? Am I happy-go-lucky all the time, or am I super chill? And then what does it mean for me to be off of my game, or again, not myself, not feeling like myself? That's some things that I want you guys to think about. So I'm usually calling my friends all the time, I'm going to the gym, taking out my dog, I'm watching basketball, and then I'm not doing those things. And I'm not really sure why. 3 changes that I'm gonna focus on this evening. 1, a change in the seasons. 2, post-traumatic stress disorder. And then 3, surviving the loss of someone. So we'll talk about changing the seasons, post-traumatic stress on a very general level, surface level, and then surviving the loss of someone. So we are humans. I'm assuming if I cut everybody, you bleed red, which means we all need vitamin D, and our largest component of vitamin D comes from the sun. Anybody like to go out in the sun, hike, run, walk? Anybody like, I hate being outside? Okay, that's real. Depends on the temperature, you said? So if it's warm, you like being outside? Yeah, I love being at the beach. I'm an outside girl though, so I like to hike, I love to run, I love being outside. But one of the reasons why we love it so much is because it gives us vitamin D. And there's a direct correlation between vitamin D that we need and depression. So for some of us, as we don't get as much sun when the, what is it called? Daylight saving time happen, we find ourselves feeling more down or not being outside as much when winter comes. You'll see this especially in states like Alaska where they don't get as much sun. There's a higher rate, a higher percentage of people depressed there because of the amount of sun that they get. So one major cause for us, and it used to be called seasonal affective disorder, but that's no longer a real thing. But you'll hear people say that I have SAD or I have seasonal affective disorder. What they're saying is, I'm not getting enough vitamin D, and it's causing me to be more sad. I just had twins 4 months ago, babe? 4 months ago. 4 months old in a couple days. And I'm breastfeeding. And they also get this vitamin D supplement because we don't produce enough vitamin D. New mothers, our body just doesn't produce enough if we're breastfeeding. So one of the things I'm giving the babies is vitamin D drops because I care about their mental health too. And then I'm taking my own vitamin D supplement just so I can have a little extra. So you can supplement vitamin D, and then this is just a few things, but you can look this up and talk to your doctor as well. Whether you can get vitamin D in fish, cheese, egg yolks, orange juice, or soy milk. But one of the things I encourage you to do is to get outside, and then you can also talk to your doctor and see if they can test the amount of vitamin D that you already have, so you'll have more knowledge. Post-traumatic stress disorder. So PTSD is what people call it all the time, and you'll hear people relate it to rape or to war, but there are a whole bunch of other reasons why we can have post-traumatic stress disorder. So PTSD comes if we have experienced, witnessed, or learned about a traumatic event. Experienced, witnessed, or learned. So it doesn't necessarily have to happen to you. It can happen to a friend, and your friend is telling you the story, and you can be impacted by it. One of my specialties as a therapist here in Charlotte is I'm a trauma expert. So a lot of people who've experienced trauma get referred to me. I have a contract to work with children who've experienced trauma. Some of the reasons we may have experienced trauma is homelessness, if you've been robbed before, domestic violence, of course, sexual assault, war, community violence, or even witnessing somebody being incarcerated. The list goes on and on from this though. Your parents getting a divorce is considered traumatic, right? So we have our own definitions of trauma, but it's about how our body reacts to it. So if something happened to you or you've learned about something and it causes nightmares, that is traumatic. If something has happened to you and you have flashbacks or you avoid certain people or you avoid certain places, that can mean that you've been impacted by trauma. So again, us experiencing trauma could be a reason why we experience depression around the holidays, especially if the traumatic event happened around the holidays. Specifically, if we've experienced grief and loss. Has anybody in here lost someone close to them? I've lost somebody close to me. And with that, sometimes the holidays may not feel the same, right? Especially if you spend that holiday with that person. So this is the third thing that we'll talk a little bit about, just about grief. So African Americans, we don't grieve or mourn properly. Any guesses as to why?
It's cultural.
Yeah, the culture has to do with it. But why else? We don't mourn the way we should.
I think it's probably historical in the sense that when things did happen to us, especially in slavery, we had to really get our bread in order to survive.
Absolutely.
Had to keep going.
Absolutely. It's force-fed into us that we have to be resilient and strong. On our podcast, we just talked about the superhero syndrome that African Americans experience. This idea that I gotta be strong all the time. I always gotta have my cape on, I always gotta have my shield and my weapons ready. There's never a minute for me to just relax. Can anybody relate to that? I can never take my cape off. I gotta take care of everything. I gotta take care of my friends and my family and Day and my cousin and my partner. All these people I gotta take care of. But then I forget about who? Yourself. Another platform that's super important to me, and I'm gonna give you guys some information on, is this idea of what does it mean to really take care of me? What does that look like? What does it look like to be honest with myself about some things? Whether that's I'm in a relationship that's unhealthy, I'm in a job that I hate, but it sounds good because I got this good status. I joke with Marvin all the time about coming here because I know a lot of you, let me not make that assumption. When I come here in the past, a lot of people have these corporate jobs, and they would talk to me after about how they hate the job, but they make all this money. I'm the wrong person to talk to because I really believe that we should be walking and doing what's in our purpose, and we should be going to work for a reason outside of money. But that's another presentation. Grief. So there are 5 stages of grief, and we don't experience them in an order, and there's no time limit of how long we stay in one stage. Acceptance, denial, depression, anger, and bargaining. My question, what is this last one about, bargaining? The other ones we kind of know. What's that one?
That you will try to, if you're doing life or death, that you're trying to, like, let's say someone has cancer or something like that, and you'll like say, if I can do this, like maybe even just like looking at prayer, you know, like say, God, if you let someone survive, I will. I don't know what's a good one to say. I'll start going to church more and things like that.
That's exactly what it is. So sometimes we lose some things and then we start bargaining. Or we may experience some anger or some denial. That person didn't really die or that didn't really happen. Grief, you know, it's important for us to sit in uncomfortable feelings. And I talk about this a lot. Nobody wants to be embarrassed or ashamed or disappointed. Nobody likes the feeling of being broken up with, right? But after we've experienced some difficult things once and we learn some tools, when we experience those things again, it may not be as difficult. So it's something to think about. If you're experiencing breakup or if you've moved, even if you get a promotion, you still mourn the position that you used to have because you're not going to have the same coworkers, you're not going to have the same boss. So even us sitting with things instead of just going so fast through life all the time. Well, I got a promotion, it's cool. And I just bought a new house, and I'm in a new relationship. And you're just moving from one thing to the next, never giving yourself a second to just breathe and to just sit in that. And then when we don't do that, we'll start to see these different things happening. I don't know why I'm so stressed out. I just got this brand new position. I don't know why I'm crying. I just bought a house. Like, everything's good. I got enough money. Like, what's wrong with me? We're not giving ourselves enough time. We're not taking the minute to just slow down for a beat. So what can I do? What can I do if I'm experiencing some sadness around the holidays or just some sadness in general? Creating rituals. So if someone has passed away around the holidays, a huge one is to create a ritual for that person. Whether you listen to the music they used to listen to, whether you cook a pie that they used to make together, that you guys used to make together, figuring out how can you commemorate that person, how can you remember them, and in a very healthy way. See a professional, nurture a healthy relationship. So research says that even if we have experienced a multitude of traumatic events as a child, as long as we have one healthy relationship, the odds are in our favor, in the words of Hunger Games. So it's super important for us to have at least one friend. And like I tell my therapist, you need to have a friend that you don't work with. Why is that? Why does it need to be somebody outside of work?
So you can vent about work.
Close. The opposite of that. Why do I need one good friend outside of work?
So you feel like it won't get back to the people at work? Maybe?
Close. It's a different perspective. If you only have friends that you work with, y'all gonna sit around and talk about what all day? Work. Who the hell wants to do that? Who wants to leave work and talk about work for the rest of the night? You need one healthy relationship outside of work, somebody that you can talk to, that you can confide in. You want to be mindful of what you're eating. We should be drinking tons and tons of water. eating vegetables if you don't eat meat if you eat